Welcome everyone to today's presentation. I'm Brendan Hughes, Marketing Manager at Equity Trust. One way to learn about a topic, to discover how something works, to gain inspiration, is from real-life, true stories about a topic. So for people who've just heard of self-directed IRAs or who have been interested for a while and are starting to just really wrap their heads around the concept, I thought let's share some examples of Equity Trust clients using their self-directed IRAs. What better way for people to get a high-level peek at how self-directed IRAs work than showcasing how current investors are using them to boost their financial future? How did these investors come to find a self-directed IRA, and how did they locate an investment? What were the details of the investment? How did it work? What were the results? That's what we'll be discussing. What's the goal for today? It's to give you a better idea of what current investors are actually doing with their self-directed IRAs. You know, to some people, self-directed IRAs can seem intimidating, or they might not fully understand what a self-directed IRA is. So today, we'll review what these clients are doing in simple terms, and hopefully this will give you a better idea if a self-directed IRA is right for you. Now, before we move any further, a quick disclaimer: Equity Trust is a passive custodian and does not provide tax, legal, or investment advice. Any information communicated by Equity Trust is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice. Whenever making an investment decision, please consult with your tax attorney and/or financial professional. Also, please make sure you have a pen and paper available to jot down some notes. Or if you're on a computer, be ready to take notes. I'm sure there's going to be items you're going to want to remember or some questions that might pop up in your mind that you might want to write down for later. Now, I have a special offer for everyone attending today. This is a great resource for people interested in self-directed IRAs. It's a book by Equity Trust founder Richard Desich. He is one of the pioneers in this industry. He completed his first investment with self-directed IRAs in the early 80s. The book is titled Self-Directed IRAs, Building Retirement Wealth Through Alternative Investing. It's filled with education and more than 30 case studies on people using self-directed IRAs to build wealth for their retirement. Now, since we're going to review 3 success stories today, you know, if you like those or it sparks some inspiration, then you're really going to want to read all the case studies in this book. And to get a link to download it, all you have to do is stick around until the end, and I'll let you know how you can get a free digital copy of the book. You don't have to wait for the book. If you have questions right away, you can just call us. If you're interested in learning more about self-directed IRAs, you can request a free consultation from one of our senior account executives. They can speak to you about the different account types available at Equity Trust and can answer questions about how the investing process works. You can call us at 888-382-4727. So we've set the table here for the rest of our time together. This is what we're going to cover. An investor who purchased a rental property 100 miles away from where they live with their IRA without ever leaving their home. We're also going to review a story on a couple that combine their self-directed IRAs to purchase an asset, and a real estate investment from start to finish with a unique tactic to find renters. Now, to cover all our bases, we have this note on the screen, a reminder that we're going to be discussing case studies, and these are just for educational purposes. So please read this note and remember that every situation is unique. There are many factors to each investment. Past performance is not indicative of future results, and there is a risk of loss with any investments. Now, up first, we have a Michigan investor who was in his 50s, starting to really focus on building wealth for retirement. He had invested in 2 rental properties near where he lived outside of a retirement account. But after discovering self-directed IRAs, he decided he wanted to use an IRA to invest in a rental property. Now, as I mentioned, he had previous experience with rental properties before opening his self-directed IRA. He wasn't a full-time investor, full-time real estate investor, but he did have experience with rentals. And he knew the process in trying to locate a property, dealing with finding a tenant, dealing with all the things that come with having a tenant and property management. He knew the importance of research and due diligence. He also had decided in his mind that in something he wanted to invest in a property in a coastal town, somewhere close to an ocean. Now, as I stated, he lived in Michigan. The closest ocean is not close, right? But with his previous experience, he was able to search for what he believed was the right investment and contact and work with local professionals to help him manage the investment. For him, this happened to be in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Now, I want to take a moment to make a distinction on how a self-directed IRA works with a rental real estate investment. And it's a little bit different from doing a similar investment outside the IRA. Two big differences. First, the investment is titled in the name of the IRA, which makes sense, right? Because the IRA is completing the investment, not the individual. They are separate. So all of the titling and paperwork related to the investment lists the IRA is the owner of the property, not the individual. The second thing is that the IRA owner cannot work directly on a real estate property, cannot provide what we call sweat equity. They can't live or work in the property, and certain family members cannot as well. These are not allowed. So for example, if the investor had their IRA invest in a property, they could not live in the property while it was held in the IRA, and they could not go to the property and personally paint it or fix it up, anything that had sweat equity involved. There are a number of rules that you need to follow in this situation, but they can hire others to do that work. So our Michigan investor knew the guidelines to follow around investing in real estate with an IRA. And even though he was looking to invest far away from his home, he knew if he found the right people to work with and contract with, there was a chance he could have a successful investment. And that's what happened. Our client, through online research, found a few condos for sale in Hilton Head that he thought were in his price range and had the potential to be profitable rental properties. He found and contacted a realtor in the area to do additional research for him. Once he found the property, he instructed his IRA custodian, us here at Equity Trust, to purchase the property for his IRA. Now, he also knew he needed to make some upgrades to the property and find tenants. Through this new contact, the realtor was able to hire and find contractor to update parts of the condo, and he worked with the realtor to list the property for tenants. Again, since this is his investment in his IRA, he instructs his IRA custodian, that's us here at Equity Trust, to pay the contractor and realtors for their services. He can't do that with his personal money since it's IRA investment. So everything comes from the IRA to pay for services, pay for the realtor to find the contractor, to pay the contractor, to pay for the realtor to find the tenants, to place the ads, to find the tenants to rent the property to. So let's review what happened. How does investment work out? His IRA, if we go over the details here, his IRA purchased the property for $37,500, and he contracted people to update parts of the condo for about $8,500. So total upfront costs were about $45,000 to $46,000. What really worked out well in this case was that the investor was able to find a tenant. Again, the realtor helped him find this, but the tenant was able to find a tenant that really liked the condo, wanted to commit to a 3-year lease at $1,390 a month. So again, here's a good place to mention a difference between using an IRA for rental property than if you were to do this outside the IRA. The tenant makes out those monthly checks, not to the investor personally, but the checks are made out to the investor's IRA and sent to Equity Trust. As the custodian, we receive the rental check each month and put it in the IRA. The same is true for any ongoing expenses related to the property after purchase. If there needs to be something fixed at the property, if property taxes need to be paid, anything related to the investment, those dollars must come from the IRA. So again, the investor instructs Equity Trust to send money checks to whatever needs to be paid. Now, what's really worked out well is that the investor had the property appraised just last year for $75,000. Pretty good deal, right? The big appreciation in 4 years, plus the IRA has been receiving monthly income of over $1,300. And you can see some of the, real quick below, the before and after pictures of the kitchen where the upgrades in the condo were made after the purchase. All right, on to the next one. One thing that I hear often from people interested in self-directed IRA and investing in an outside asset or an asset outside of the market, like a property or a mortgage note or something else, is that they don't have enough money in their account. They like the concept, but they've never had an IRA and can only contribute $5,000 to $6,000 a year, depending on their age and IRS limits. So they feel like they can't find something to invest in with such a low account balance. Now, this is a fairly common scenario with people interested in self-directed IRAs. And the next client we're going to review was in this same situation. It's actually a married couple, but the wife was the one particularly interested in building wealth with a tax advantage account, an IRA, and wanted to invest in something outside of the stock market. So just for some background, this woman's father was an experienced real estate investor, and she was around real estate investing from an early age. And while not her full-time profession, she had created an LLC to invest in rental properties. So this couple was definitely familiar with real estate investing, but they were younger and they did not have a lot in a retirement savings account. So this is the situation they faced. They knew about investing in real estate, wanted to invest in real estate with a retirement account. They knew they wanted a tax advantage account to grow future wealth. And the Roth IRA is something that both wanted, and so each of them opened a Roth IRA at Equity Trust. But as I mentioned before, they weren't starting out with much money in the accounts. And they knew it might be hard to find an investment opportunity with a low account balance. That's when they discovered it's possible to have IRAs join together, to partner with someone else or another entity to invest jointly. Now, there are some rules on how this works, who the IRA can invest with, how it's titled, etc. And it's important that anyone thinking about this, that they consult with a financial professional moving forward. It's a good reminder, again, to work with tax financial professionals before making any investment decision. But it is possible, and for this married couple in Colorado, it's an option that worked for them. They have their IRAs participate in an investment, even though they didn't have big balances to begin with, and then they have the possibility to build wealth in their accounts in assets that they are familiar with, real estate. So here's what they did. The wife was able to find 2 condos that she wanted to invest in, and they decided to partner the Roth IRAs with the wife's existing LLC. Now again, with a self-directed IRA, there are some differences between how those investments work inside the IRA versus outside of an IRA. When a self-directed IRA is just part of the investment, everything related must stay the same proportion. The titling on the investment is proportional, and all expenses and returns are based on that same proportion. So let's review the first investment on the right. Condo 1 is probably on your left if you're looking at the screen. The wife set up these investments where they purchase the investment and then they sell it to an investor with financing. So the investment essentially becomes a note. On the first investment, the condo was $20,000, and they decided to have the LLC invest 90%, and then the husband's Roth IRA 10%. So if we go back to the differences of using an IRA, you can see that the IRA paid 10%. This means that any ongoing expenses related to the condo, any rehab, repairs, property taxes, etc., that Roth IRA, the husband's Roth IRA, must pay 10%. And going back to the titling on any of the documents related to this investment would state the proportion. The wife's LLC 90%, husband's Roth IRA 10%. Now, they sold this property and did financing on the sale, so the person who purchased it agreed to a 30-year loan paying $315 per month. Now, 10% of that monthly income must go back to the Roth IRA. 90% goes to the wife's LLC. If we look at the other second condo, condo 2, it was a similar situation, but instead of the husband's IRA, they used the wife's Roth IRA. Same 90-10 proportion. Again, it was an investment where they provided the seller with financing, but in this case, the buyer has been behind on payments. And this is where the wife's previous experience as a real estate investor is helpful. She understands what recourse and options she has. She can work with the buyer to get back on the payments. She can find someone to purchase the note. There are people out there who specialize in purchasing non-performing notes, or she begin the foreclosure process. Now, the dollars we're discussing in this example are different from the first one, much smaller, but it does demonstrate, I think, the possibility of using IRAs jointly with other entities on investments, and the ability to participate in investments like this without having a ton of money in the account to begin with. So something that's a clear benefit to people like the husband and wife team here, who were concerned that they didn't have enough money to begin the investment process and needed a way to grow their accounts in assets they understood with not a lot of money to begin with. All right, for our last story, I wanted to highlight something unique where we focus on a tactic that helps someone with their real estate investment, but also made a difference in the local community. And I think it's important to realize that many of the investments people make with a self-directed IRA often have a bigger impact than just on the investor's retirement account. Now, obviously, the priority for all investors is to maximize growth in their accounts, but there can be ancillary benefits. So this is an example that's focused on the dollars. But again, what we have here is a younger real estate investor. This is an equity trust client that invested in property right after college. They bought a duplex and rented one half while living in the other. Over the years, the person purchased more rental properties. He had begun to know other investors and talk to them regularly. He networked often with other real estate investors, and sometimes he would go in together on an investment. One time, after partnering with another investor on a rehab where they sold the investment, at the closing, the other person made a comment about not having to pay taxes right away because it was in their retirement account. This was the first time he ever heard of that, but was really intrigued. He did research, decided to open a Roth IRA equity trust with the intent to invest in rental properties. Now, two things became apparent to this investor as potential obstacles. Again, as a younger investor and with a new account, he knew that he was not going to start with a large account balance. Much of his professional life after college, almost all of it, was focused on real estate investing and did not have a 401k from an employer to roll over, or had much time to build up retirement savings in a retirement account. And he knew he'd have to, he knew he had to find a unique opportunity that was in a lower dollar amount. And the other often item that plagued him with his other rental properties was finding and keeping tenants, good tenants that paid. For rental property investment, the ongoing cash flow from monthly rent payments is often what drives success. So let's take a look at what happened in this situation here. The equity trust client began looking again for potential rental properties at a low price point, coming across often distressed properties or some with delinquent taxes. What he found was a small apartment complex that had back taxes that were not paid, and were not paid for a while. But what was unique about this was the property was not really in that bad a shape. So it turned out that the owner was out of state and was not responsive for many years in replying to the county on those back taxes. Our investor discovered this from a published list of tax liens, and now it was a bit of a drawn-out process to clear title and pay back the taxes owed. But over the course of 2 years, the equity trust client was able to purchase the property with his Roth IRA. And, as I mentioned before, it turned out that the property was not as distressed as other properties this client had run over in the past. So rehab costs were low. You can see a picture of it on the screen there, of the property that was bought with the client's Roth IRA through the county because of past delinquent taxes. Now, for the other issue that often plagued our client, finding tenants that stayed and paid. And remember that he was often networking in the community with other investors and community partners, and he ended up meeting a person with a local Veterans Assistance Foundation. And what he discovered was that this foundation worked to find affordable housing for veterans that are often temporarily homeless, or in some cases permanently homeless. The organization helps veterans with a lot of needs, job training, finding jobs, etc. One part of this was finding affordable housing. Now, our client was able to work an agreement where he could provide some of his units in this building that he had purchased to members of this veterans group. And then the veterans group would provide rent assistance. So it ended up being a really positive win-win situation. The client was able to find an organization that ensured that the members it sent to our client, to this property, it was sending members of its organization in good standing that were able to pay rent, and able to continually fill the complex. And the client was able to fill a need in the community by providing veterans with affordable housing. And again, I wanted to share this example not so much in terms of the dollars and the ROI, but as a creative example of how a Roth IRA was able to participate in an investment that made an impact in the community beyond just the client's retirement account. Now, I know these were brief, high-level reviews of what equity trust clients are doing with their self-directed IRAs, but I hope they give some insight into what is possible, about how self-directed IRAs are actually working, and maybe these can provide some inspiration to you to move forward. And so if you have any questions, or if you do really get started, I encourage you to schedule a consultation with one of our senior account executives. As I mentioned before, they can help you get started and discover what possible plans we have here at Equity Trust. Call us at 888-382-4727. And as I promised in the beginning, I have a special offer for you if you stuck around to the end, and you have. So here it is, a free digital copy of the Equity Trust founder book, Richard Desich's book, Self-Directed IRAs, Building Wealth Through Alternative Investing. It can be yours just by emailing the address on the screen, webinars@trustetc.com. Put book in the subject line, and we'll send you a link as soon as we can. It's a great resource for anyone interested in self-directed investing. And as I mentioned earlier, there's 30 case studies within this book that go into details on how equity trust clients are using self-directed IRAs, and hopefully that can give you a better idea if a self-directed IRA is right for you. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.